The people around you are quietly shaping the person you are becoming. Every conversation, every friendship, every relationship either strengthens your character or slowly weakens it. The Stoics understood something that modern society often ignores. Success is not determined only by the choices you make. It is also determined by the people you allow close enough to influence those choices. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet even with unlimited power, he could not escape dishonest people. He faced flatterers, traitors, manipulators, and those who smiled to his face while secretly hoping for his downfall. Instead of becoming bitter, he became wiser, because he realized not every person deserves a place in your life. Some people steal your time, some steal your confidence, some steal your peace, and the most dangerous ones do it so slowly that you don't notice until years have passed. This is why Stoicism is not only about controlling yourself. It is also about understanding human nature, knowing who to trust, who to forgive, who to help, and who to quietly walk away from. Today, you will discover the 7 types of people every Stoic eventually learns to avoid. Not because Stoics hate people, but because they understand that protecting your peace is one of the highest forms of wisdom. By the end of this documentary, you may never look at the people around you the same way again. Let's begin. The first person every Stoic learns to avoid: the constant complainer. Everywhere you go, you will find this type of person. They are never at peace, never satisfied, never still. To them, life is always happening against them. If it rains, they complain. If it is hot, they complain. If they succeed, they still find something wrong with the outcome. Nothing is ever enough. Nothing is ever fair. Nothing is ever good. At first, you try to help them. You listen. You advise them. You encourage them. You believe they just need support. But slowly, something begins to happen. Without noticing it, you start speaking like them, thinking like them, seeing problems where there were none before. This is what the Stoics warned about. Marcus Aurelius did not fear enemies on the battlefield. He feared the slow corruption of the mind. Because the mind does not change in one moment. It changes through repetition, through exposure, through influence. The constant complainer does not need to destroy your life. They only need to be around you long enough for you to start seeing the world through their eyes. And once that happens, you begin to lose something far more important than time. You lose perspective. The Stoics believed that most suffering does not come from events. It comes from interpretation. 2 people can live the same experience. One sees opportunity. The other sees injustice. One grows stronger. The other grows bitter. The difference is not life. The difference is mindset. The constant complainer has trained their mind to only notice what is wrong. And if you are not careful, you begin to inherit that same training. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by things themselves, but by the meaning we assign to them. And the meaning of a constant complainer is always the same. This is bad. This is unfair. This will not work. Over time, that worldview becomes contagious, not because it is true, but because it is repeated. A Stoic does not reject people, but a Stoic does reject influence that corrupts the mind. You can listen without absorbing. You can understand without adopting. You can care without carrying their mindset. This is where most people fail. They believe being good means staying close to everyone. But Stoicism teaches something harder. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for your own future is to create distance, not out of hatred, but out of wisdom. Because peace is not maintained by accident. It is protected by choice. And the first choice every Stoic learns to make is this: do not allow the constant complainer to become the voice inside your own mind. The second person every Stoic learns to avoid: the flatterer. At first, this person does not feel dangerous. In fact, they feel pleasant. They say the right things. They make you feel important. They agree with you. They admire you. They praise you even when it is not necessary. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to enjoy their presence. Because who does not like to be appreciated? But the Stoics saw something deeper. Not every praise is honesty, and not every compliment is truth. Some words are not spoken to reflect reality, but to influence it. The flatterer does not admire you. They study you. They learn what you want to hear. And then, they give it back to you. Marcus Aurelius warned himself about people who always agreed too quickly. Because agreement without honesty is not loyalty. It is manipulation disguised as support. A true friend corrects you when you are wrong. A flatterer avoids correction, because correction risks your approval. And approval is what they are trading for. The danger of the flatterer is not that they lie about everything. It is that they slowly remove your ability to see yourself clearly. When everyone around you agrees with you, you stop questioning yourself. When no one challenges you, you stop growing. And when no one tells you the truth, you begin to believe a version of yourself that does not exist. The Stoics believe that ego is not built by success alone. It is built by unchecked praise. Because praise feels good, even when it is false. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you must be willing to be corrected. But the flatterer has no interest in your improvement, only your approval, only your attention, only your trust. Over time, they become dangerous not because they attack you, but because they prevent you from seeing your own weaknesses. And a man who cannot see his weaknesses cannot fix them. A Stoic learns to listen carefully, to praise that is specific, and to distrust praise that feels excessive or unearned. Because truth rarely sounds perfect. It often sounds uncomfortable. So the Stoic asks a simple question: is this person helping me see myself clearly? Or helping me feel good about myself? Because only one of those leads to growth, and the second one leads to blindness. The third person every Stoic learns to avoid: the envious friend. This is one of the most difficult people to recognize, because they do not appear as enemies. They appear as friends. They smile with you. They laugh with you. They celebrate with you, at least on the surface. But internally, something is different. When you succeed, they feel discomfort. When you grow, they feel comparison. When you win, they feel smaller. Envy does not always show itself through hatred. Sometimes it hides behind silence. Sometimes it hides behind delayed congratulations. And sometimes it hides behind forced smiles. The Stoics understood that envy is not about the other person. It is about internal dissatisfaction. A person who is at peace with themselves does not suffer from your success. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that other people's reactions are not within his control. But what he could control was how much importance he gave to those reactions. The envious friend is dangerous, not because they will always harm you directly, but because they subtly change the way you express your success around them. You begin to shrink yourself. You stop sharing your wins. You hide your progress. You become quieter about your growth. And without realizing it, you begin living smaller than you actually are. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when you stop depending on external approval. But envy creates the opposite effect. It makes you start managing yourself based on how others might feel. The envious friend does not celebrate your light. They measure it against their own darkness. And in that comparison, someone always loses. A Stoic learns that not everyone deserves access to their progress. Not because of pride, but because of protection. Your growth is not something to be hidden out of fear. But it is also not something to be shared with those who cannot celebrate it. Because over time, their energy becomes your hesitation, and your hesitation becomes your limitation. The Stoics believed that peace requires boundaries, and one of the hardest boundaries to set is with people you once called friends. Because the truth is simple, not all friendships are aligned with your growth. Some friendships are built on shared struggle, not shared progress. And when you begin to rise, they no longer know how to stand beside you. So the Stoic makes a quiet decision to observe, to understand, but not to depend on validation. Because a man who needs approval from everyone will eventually lose himself trying to keep everyone comfortable. And the envious friend teaches you one of the most important Stoic lessons of all. Not everyone who smiles with you is happy for you. The fourth person every Stoic learns to avoid: the chronic liar. This is not someone who lies once. Every human being does that. This is someone who builds their identity around distortion. Their words are not stable. They shift depending on the situation, depending on the audience, depending on what benefits them in the moment. At first, their lies are small, harmless even, exaggerations, half-truths, stories that sound slightly better than reality. But over time, something deeper forms. They begin to lose the difference between truth and convenience. Marcus Aurelius warned himself about people who change their words to fit their advantage. Because a person who cannot be trusted with truth cannot be trusted with anything else. The Stoics placed enormous value on clarity, not perfection, but clarity, to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. The chronic liar destroys that clarity, because you never know where you stand with them. One day, you are hearing one version of reality. The next day, a completely different one. And slowly, your trust in them begins to dissolve. But something else happens too. You begin to doubt your own judgment. If their story keeps changing, you start questioning your memory, your interpretation, your understanding of events. This is where the danger lies, not just in their dishonesty, but in the confusion it creates in you. Epictetus taught that what disturbs us is not events themselves, but uncertainty about how to interpret them. The chronic liar creates that uncertainty constantly, and a mind that lives in uncertainty cannot find peace. A Stoic does not waste energy trying to fix dishonest people. Instead, they adjust their proximity, because trust is not something you demand. It is something that must be earned through consistency. And when consistency is absent, distance becomes wisdom. The chronic liar is not dangerous because they always intend harm. They are dangerous because truth has no stable place around them. And without truth, there can be no stability, no clarity, no peace. A Stoic learns this lesson early. If someone cannot be consistent with reality, they should not be close to yours. The fifth person every Stoic learns to avoid: the manipulator. This is not someone who speaks loudly. They rarely need to. They operate quietly, subtly, strategically. At first, they appear helpful, understanding, even supportive. They ask questions that feel caring. They offer advice that feels wise. They position themselves as someone you can trust. But over time, you begin to notice something strange. Their kindness always seems to have direction. Their support always seems to come with expectation. And their words slowly begin to influence your decisions. The Stoics understood manipulation as one of the most dangerous forms of influence, because it does not feel like force. It feels like choice. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that not everyone who appears reasonable is acting in good faith. A manipulator does not need to control you directly. They only need to influence your perception of reality so that your choices begin to align with their interests, while you still believe they are your own. This is why Stoicism teaches constant self-awareness, not paranoia, but clarity. To ask yourself, is this decision truly mine, or has it been shaped by someone else's hidden agenda? The manipulator thrives where awareness is low, where emotions are high, where clarity is missing. They understand human psychology instinctively. They know what people want to hear. They know when to apply pressure. And they know when to step back. So you believe the space was your idea. Epictetus taught that freedom belongs to the person who cannot be easily controlled. And manipulation is simply control disguised as suggestion. The danger is not always immediate. In fact, you often only notice it after the damage is done, after decisions are made, after boundaries are crossed, after your priorities have slowly shifted away from your own values. A Stoic does not respond with anger to manipulation. Anger gives it power. Instead, they respond with awareness. They slow down decisions. They question pressure. They create distance from influence that feels unclear. Because clarity is protection, and confusion is where manipulation grows. The manipulator is dangerous not because they are always obvious, but because they often make you feel like nothing is wrong, while everything is quietly being redirected. And the Stoic learns one essential truth. If you are not careful, you will call manipulation guidance. The sixth person every Stoic learns to avoid: the betrayer. This is not always someone you dislike. In fact, it is often someone you trusted deeply, someone you defended, someone you believed would stand beside you when things became difficult. But Stoicism teaches a painful truth. You never truly know someone until loyalty is tested. The betrayer is not always loud. They do not announce their intentions. They do not warn you. They simply change when pressure appears. When it becomes inconvenient to stand with you, they quietly step away. Or worse, they step against you. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As an emperor, he experienced not only enemies in war, but betrayal within trust. People who once praised him later opposed him. People who once stood close later distanced themselves when power shifted. The Stoics did not respond to betrayal with emotional collapse. They responded with understanding, because they recognized something important. People act according to their character under pressure, not their promises, not their words, but their character. The betrayer reveals this character. not through one action, but through the moment they choose self-preservation over loyalty. This is why Stoicism emphasizes expectation without attachment. You may hope for loyalty, but you do not depend on it blindly, because dependence creates vulnerability, and vulnerability without awareness leads to suffering. Epictetus taught that we cannot control the actions of others, only our judgment of those actions. So when betrayal happens, the Stoic does not ask, "Why did they do this to me?" Instead, they ask, "What did this reveal about them? And more importantly, what must I learn from this?" The betrayal itself becomes information, not destruction. And this is where the Stoic separates from emotional reaction. They do not let betrayal define their identity. They let it refine their judgment. Because not everyone who stands with you today is capable of standing with you tomorrow. And the Stoic learns this without bitterness, only clarity. The betrayer is dangerous not because they always intend harm, but because they expose how fragile trust can be when it is given too freely. And the Stoic learns one final lesson. Loyalty is proven in silence, not in promises. The seventh person every Stoic learns to avoid: the person without purpose. This is the most dangerous of all. Not because they attack you, not because they betray you, not because they manipulate you, but because they drift through life without direction. The Stoics believed that a life without purpose is not a life in motion, but a life in decay. Because when a person has no direction, they do not stand still. They slowly pull everything around them into confusion. The person without purpose is not always obvious. They may be funny. They may be charming. They may be easy to be around. But underneath it all, there is no foundation, no direction, no internal structure. And this is what makes them dangerous to your mindset. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about discipline of the mind, because without discipline, the mind becomes reactive, and a reactive mind belongs to whatever is happening around it. The person without purpose lives reactively. They chase feelings instead of goals. They follow impulses instead of principles. And slowly, they begin to normalize this way of living. When you are around them, you begin to question your own direction. You begin to slow down your ambition. You begin to doubt your structure, because their chaos feels normal. The Stoics believed that purpose is what gives a man stability. Without it, a man becomes easily influenced, easily distracted, easily pulled in different directions. Epictetus taught that you must decide what kind of person you want to be, and then act in accordance with that decision. But the person without purpose never makes that decision, so they adapt to the environment instead. And over time, they become the environment. This is why Stoicism emphasizes clarity of direction, because a man who does not know where he is going will follow anyone who walks faster than him. And that is where danger begins. Not from enemies, not from betrayal, but from aimlessness. A Stoic does not avoid such people with hatred, but with awareness. Because you cannot build a disciplined life surrounded by undisciplined direction. You can care for people without becoming like them, but you must first be honest about the influence they carry. Because purpose is not just something you have, it is something you protect. And if you are not careful, the absence of purpose in others will slowly weaken the strength of your own. Every person in this video was not meant to be hated. They were meant to be understood. The Stoics did not teach us to despise people. They taught us to see clearly. Because when you see clearly, You stop being controlled by emotion. You stop reacting blindly, and you start choosing wisely. The truth is, you will meet all 7 of these people in your life, sometimes in strangers, sometimes in friends, and sometimes in people you once trusted deeply. But Stoicism is not about controlling others. It is about controlling your response. Marcus Aurelius did not live in a perfect world. He lived surrounded by chaos, yet he remained steady, not because his environment was peaceful, but because his mind was disciplined. And that is the real lesson. You cannot remove every difficult person from your life, but you can remove their influence over your mind. You can learn to observe without absorbing, to listen without losing yourself, to understand without becoming, and most importantly, to walk away when peace demands it, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Because peace is not found in isolation from the world, but in mastery over your inner world. So as you move forward from this video, do not ask yourself only who to avoid. Ask yourself something deeper. Who are you becoming? Because of the people you allow close to you? And are they shaping you in the direction you truly want to go? Or away from it? The Stoics would say, your life is not defined by who enters it, but by what you allow them to change within you. Stay aware, stay grounded, and above all, stay disciplined in your mind. Thank you for watching.